In this video, we're going to do part C of this problem. So I've already started by putting my same scale on this picture because I haven't changed my setup. This time we're asked to find the probability a randomly selected woman is between 63 and 69 inches tall. So this time we have two numbers that show up in the problem. So 63 is between the 62 and a quarter and 65, roughly about there. And 69 is between this 67.75 and 70.5. And then on this picture, where are we going to shade? Well, it specifically says between these two values, so we're just going to shade between them. So now comparing this to the other two problems we've done so far, it's not shaded left or shaded right. So we're going to have to come up with a new rule of how I'm going to do this. But let's go ahead and follow the next process. Our next step is always to calculate our z-score. But this time I'm actually going to have two different z-scores to do. I'm going to have one for 63 and one for 69. So I'm just going to do that equation twice. All right, 63 is not quite one standard deviation below the mean. So it's going to be between this -1 and 0. 69 is a little bit more than 1, but not quite 2 standard deviations above the mean. So it's going to be between +1 and +2. Let's go ahead and do the math for both of these. I will always do the bigger one first, and you'll see why after we learn our rule. So I'm going to take 69 minus 65 divided by our standard deviation of 2.75. which gives me a z-score of +1.45. So between 1 and 2, just as I knew it should be. Now doing my z calculation for my 63 instead. So that's the only thing that changes in my equation. Gives me a z-score of -0.73. So it's between -1 and 0, like I knew it should be. All right, so our next thing is to go to the table appropriately. So recall again, remember that our table reads to the left. That's not how my picture is shaded. It's shaded between, but I have to use this table in some way to help me come up with my answer. So we're going to talk about now rule 2 on the previous page. So this will be our between rule. So anytime you're being asked to find a between probability, we're going to use this rule. It does not matter where your values fall. It's just whenever you're shaded between two numbers. I'm just going to arbitrarily label these as A and B below. So keep in mind that I have to use my table that is shaded to the left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by looking at B, and I'm looking at everything to the left of it. Now, if I compare my two pictures, I can see, well, this one has more on it than this one does. The problem is it's capturing this little piece here that I don't want. Like, right, it has that little piece that I don't want. So what can I do to things I don't want? I can subtract them off. So then I'm actually going to subtract off everything that's smaller than that value of A. So then really what we're going to do is we're going to go to the table first, then subtract. So we're going to go to the table first for both values. Then subtract. All right, so doing that for our problem. I'm going to take both the +1.45 and -0.73 to my table. First, the +1.45. So remember, the 1.4 is my row to go to. The 5 is my column to go to. So I'm going to find 0.9265 in the table for this one. then we're also going to take that negative 0.73 to the table. Again, the negative 0.7 is my row, and the 3 is my column. So now I'm on the negative page. Here's that negative 0.7. The 3 column is that fourth column here. So where those match up is my 0.2327. So now for my actual probability, I'm going to subtract my two probabilities. And it's always going to be the bigger probability minus the smaller probability, because probabilities have to be positive. They have to be between 0 and 1 more specifically. So if you subtract in the wrong order, you'll know because you will get a negative number. So we're going to get 0.6938. Again, when would I use this rule? Is because we're shaded between two numbers. So then I can say the probability that a randomly selected woman is between 63 inches and 69 inches is our 0.6938 or 69.38%. Okay, so a quick recap. When we're shaded between any two numbers, again, doesn't matter where the numbers fall along the bottom. I will then calculate the z-score for both values. I will go to the table for both values. Then I will subtract those two numbers from the table to get my answer. So now you'll see why I put this number up here first, the higher number, because then I'm going to take this number minus this number. Though it does not really matter what order you do these in, as long as over here you're taking the bigger value minus the smaller value. So there's our between rule. So now you've seen an example of shaded left, like part A, shaded right, like part B, and shaded between, like part C. From these rules, we can do any probability calculation. In the next video, we'll do another example of practicing some more of this as well.